Okay, I'll spend a few minutes walking through the slides, and then I really want to have the opportunity for folks to ask questions, because everybody's setup is different, both on the this session and also within your museums. Let's see. I don't think I have control yet. The controls are dimmed on my end for the moderator. Ah, there we go. Okay, so why did the AVH Museum decide to go into the wild green yonder? You can see our mission, kind of our core mission statement at the top, emphasis on the preserve, and that was one of the issues that you'll see in the next slide that we were dealing with. Our project was a full energy upgrades and energy efficiency upgrades for the entire campus. We talked about the energy project a little bit while we were at the conference at Fairbanks, and now we're just completing the lighting project, and that's the emphasis on what we'll cover here. Yeah, the issue we had a temperature gradient of 64 degrees at the floor and 123 degrees at the ceiling. So that was one of the reasons that we undertook doing some energy upgrades. Organizational sustainability, yeah, it's easier to get money for projects and exhibits, but ask somebody to help you pay the electric bill, and they run away bravely, as the Brits would say. Here are the issues that we were dealing with our Stearman. The Stearman was restored in the early to mid-70s. Can everybody see where my mouse is placed on the screen? No. Okay. Let's see. How about now? I'm using solid. Okay, good. The obviously green is good, red is bad. You can see the leather combing around this front cockpit is in great shape. There's a wing over the top of this cockpit, which has shaded it from the UV that was coming off of the metal halide lights that used to be in our exhibit hangars. They're still there, but they are now unplugged. The rear cockpit, actually the leather on the rear portion of that front cockpit is here, and it's kind of tough to see in this image, but you can see there's a lot of cracking, and in glass it would look like crazing on the glass, but it's the leather itself is actually starting to get brittle. The rear cockpit, the red section here, this is very brittle, and can't see it very well here. I ended up cropping it out, but this right at the very back section of this, the leather is actually split open, and the leather was done at the same time. So we knew that there was an issue with UV damage to this artifact, and we wanted to address that. So that was kind of the drivers for doing something about our lighting. Initial goals, to reduce our utility bill by 75%, and the engineers and the contractors thought that I'd lost my mind. But if you don't throw the target out there far enough, you'll never know just how far you can reach. So I threw it out far enough to make sure that we were stretching and getting creative about ways that we can reduce our electric bill and improve the lighting in our facilities. And obviously one of the primary goals for the lighting was to reduce or alleviate all of the UV producing lights within the exhibit galleries. We had an electric audit done. Again, green is good and red is bad. The large white shelter is green because there's no electricity, there's no heating systems in it, so it's requiring no energy to operate that building. The old hangar, the restoration hangar, is built in 1953, so the electrical system has had an upgrade, but the lighting systems have not. And then the twin hangars are the two hangars encapsulated in the 1992 Red Square, and again, those were the primary focus for changing out the lighting. We documented the museum. Before we started the lighting, we mapped out each gallery. You see all the red stars. We took a light meter readings at all of the star locations, and we read UV level, visible light level, and then we set a camera on a tripod at 5 feet and recorded, took a photo essentially along each wall and down the middle from each one of these locations. And you'll see the pictures in just a second for some comparisons. We recorded the camera settings so that we could use the same camera settings for the after the lighting was done. And again, you'll see the results of that. Our general gallery lighting consisted of 28 high bay lights. They were 400-watt metal halide lights. They were burning 12,000 watts an hour while the museum was open. And our new LED lighting has over 300 fixtures, and you can see that we're only burning about 3,100 watts an hour. So the folks in white coats, I stopped them at the door. We're pretty close to a 75% reduction in electricity required for the gallery lighting. Overall, we're not quite there for a 75% reduction in our utility bills, but it's a work in progress, and we'll keep plugging away at it. Here's the before and after in our Pioneer Hall, which for the folks that have been here, that's the main room right after our museum store. The Stearman is hanging above and slightly to the right of this image or this particular perspective in the room. Let's see, let me get the marker. You can see before, you could read these panels, but we're using high bay lights, so it wasn't as easy to read. Now, after with the LED lights, these are the panels. They really pop out, and same with the art on the west wall. This stuff really does pop off the walls, and much easier for folks to see. Gets their attention, draws them into the exhibits a whole lot better than the general lighting before. Here's the Rasmussen hangar. This is in the south half of the hangar. That gallery has a lot of Alaska Airlines. Our art gallery, our art wall is there, essentially the dockside art gallery. And then you can see before the building, the Alaska Airlines exhibit building, was lit in a general way from the overhead lights. These engines were lit, but you've got aircraft wings and all sorts of things to create shadows. After changing out the lights, the face of the Alaska Airlines building is much better lit. You can see this engine got rid of a lot of the shadows. In fact, all of these engines, notice that there's a Ranger engine tucked in between these two. You didn't really notice it that much before, and right now with the new lighting down here at the bottom photo, you can see that it really stands out and essentially comes out of the shadows. This is our, affectionately known as our kids area. It's a Junior Bush Pilot Discovery Zone. Again, exhibits along the walls were generally lit with these high bay lights that you see right here. There were 12 of them in each of the hangars. With the new LED lighting, the wall exhibits are much better lit. This is on the top photo. That's a high school national champion aircraft model that was built and flown in the National Science Olympiad. She took first place. And it's now directly lit with a fixture, and it really stands out nicely and does a much better job of presenting that artifact. The kids' interactive airplane, the yellow buzzer, yeah, on the top you can see it's there and it's lit, but now we're actually lighting through the wings because the covering on it is transparent, and the ailerons are green. They're tinted green, and so it's actually adding color to the floor as the light's going through the different components of this aircraft and putting that light and those colors on the floor. So a much better presentation and much easier to see. The Peterson exhibit, we unveiled that last summer in June. We had the 26-year reunion, and it was the first case that we specifically designed here at the Aviation Museum to use LED lighting inside, and now it's lit inside and outside. You'll see a slide coming up that shows this exhibit from a different perspective, and it was before we used LED lighting on the outside, and you'll see that the face is quite a bit darker. There it is. There's 1,500 watts of equivalent lighting inside the case. With the LED lights, we're only using 165 watts to provide that illumination. There's 0 UV inside the case, and there's no heat being generated inside the case by those lights. Incandescent lighting costs about $2,500 a year for the same case. With LED lighting and leaving it on 24 hours a day, it costs us about $275 a year. We put a digital timer on it, and we're down to about $138 a year for this. This is an 18-foot display case with 3 computers screens running inside of it. And again, the fun with lights, once you start going to artifact and exhibit specific lighting, the yellow buzzer, all of the parts, before we covered it, we labeled all of the parts, and you can see the labeling inside here. You could not see that very well before with the general high bay lighting, but now that we're shining lights directly down through, all of these labels are easily read, and because it's transparent, all of the geometric shapes, the ribs and all the parts actually cast some great shadows on the sides of the aircraft and on the floor. And again, lots of fun there. The cockpit on the L1 before was dark, and now as you walk into that gallery, there's plenty of bling from all of the shiny chrome parts that are inside that cockpit now stand out, and it actually gets your attention pretty well. And other fun stuff that we were able to do now. You can see this large sailplane. We're able to cast a really nice shadow on the white wall, which is the back wall of the military theater. In the military gallery, we have this P-40, and with the light off the nose, we cast a shadow of the ghost wingman of that aircraft. And obviously couldn't see that before because this big old light was in the way, and it actually in your face as you're trying to look up and see this particular exhibit. The weapons of choice for the lighting, I selected these photos for the folks that already have either track lighting or some kind of flood cans, lighting cans, or MR16 track lighting, both the 120 volt and the 16 volt. So this is 120 volt MR16 GU10 base LED light. The fixture is, you probably already have them in your galleries, and it's literally a matter of pulling the bulb out and putting a LED equivalent in, and you've changed your lighting and cut your build. Instead of 50 watts, which is traditionally what an MR16 bulb will draw, you're pulling about 3. and that'll make a significant impact pretty quickly as you change these out. This is a 12-volt version of the MR16. Draw your attention. It may be tough to see. I don't know if I can change the color. Let's see if I can get maybe the pen will work better. Here we go. This is the tension knob for this light fixture, and you can see with a 50-watt bulb in there, this has gotten rather warm. And now you put your hand on it. It's been on all day. You put your hand on it, and it's warm, only warm to the touch. It won't burn your hand like the original halogens would. We have 3 basic sets of lights in these large cans. You can see this frame. This is what we installed. Let me switch back to the other one. This is what we installed throughout the galleries, a variety of different frame sizes. And we had the frames manufactured. We installed the track on those frames and then installed the cans with the LED bulbs in them. We have par 38s, which are the standard large floodlight size LED. We have a par 20, which is this little guy right here. And then we have par 30s for some of the applications, and those are essentially in between the par 38 and the par 20. The par 30 is a slightly more focused floodlight. Not quite a spotlight, but a little bit less than this big par 38. For the switches and timers and occupancy sensors, I've installed these occupancy sensors in the restrooms. They're $20 at Lowe's or Home Depot for the occupancy switch. You set the timer for however long you want, and now instead of having the lights on and the fan blowing all of your heat out through the wall for 8, 12 or longer hours each day, it's only on, the lights are on and the fans are on only when folks are inside the restrooms. Digital timers, we have a few different varieties. This one here is a single plug. We've got some digital timers that are actually on outlets, and digital timers that have two plugs off of those. You set them for your time frames for each day, and then if you want to do it 7 days a week or 5 days a week, or you set those events, and it turns the exhibit case lights on and off. Again, we're low wattage on those, but you're looking at a significant savings just in being able to turn those off at night, and reduces the workload on your staff, not forgetting to unplug or turn the switches or what's not. A couple of myths that we did bust, just hearing from different museums and different folks that were considering using LEDs. LED technology not mature enough. I'd say 2 years ago that was probably true. It is no longer true. You can see from the difference before and after. The LEDs can throw plenty of light, and the color of the light is adjustable, both in the temperature that you can purchase, and also if you need to make adjustments to a particular color of light that you'd like to install. Because they're LEDs and they're cool in comparison to using a traditional floodlight, you can put the gel, we taped the gels right to the face of the LED lamps. And for a couple of the exhibits, we actually changed and used some blue gels, some blue violet gels, and then some amber gels for illuminating artifacts and for getting the desired effect in doing that. You couldn't do that with traditional floodlights, but with LEDs, they're 3,000, 4,000 K as far as the temperature of the light, and you can adjust it as you need to from there. We used Richard Beckerman, came up to do the focusing. He did the final frame design as far as the placement of where we're going to hang the frames. He came up in early December, took a look at all of the exhibit areas and kind of figured out the height that these frames need to be hanging at to get the right angle for the throw of the lighting. And so we have the frames manufactured, we installed the track on them, and then we spent about 2 weeks hanging all of those tracks, and we confirmed that Pythagorean theorem still works. I had some volunteers that didn't believe that I could actually generate the correct length of a cable when it was not hanging vertical, and I proved to them that Pythagorean theorem does work, and the cables were within 1/8 of an inch. We had turnbuckles on them to make any adjustments, but with doing the math, the minimal adjustments were required, and we were able to hang 20-foot frames flat, and the anchors on the ceilings were all at different heights. So we had fun with lasers and math. Artifacts and exhibits, the law of unintended consequences. That's the law of yuck. Yeah, they're well lit. The downside is, boy, are they dirty. So we have some more homework to do this spring before we open up full steam for our summer season. We're going to have a pizza, beer, and wine party, and with volunteers, members, and the board, and essentially clean all of the artifacts and get the place ready for summer. Yeah, you can also see where our visitors have been handling the artifacts, where the dust. You can now see the dust far more readily, and you can see the fingerprints and the handprints and the fingers going across, where folks are, is this really fabric? Yeah, it really is fabric, and please don't do that anymore. The other side of that is the floors are well lit, and they are in sore need of being painted, covered, refinished, anything. But they're the new ugly spot is now the flooring in all of our exhibit galleries throughout the museum. For the future, we have a request in right now for funding to add a wind turbine. As you can see, let's see, that's still highlighted here between the white shelter and the restoration hangar, and to add solar panels on the south wall of our main hangar. The main hangar contains the store, Pioneer Hall, library, theater, collections, and archives. And again, we're looking to drive that towards that 75% reduction in our utility bill. Okay, I'm going to check one more. There we go. Okay. Open to questions. Scott, I'm going to leave the mic open. It'll be easier and faster for me to answer them via audio. Go for it. Okay, we've been working on the lighting for about 1.5 years. One of the cost factors, I did put the cost up there. The project is around a $50,000 conversion, which may scare some folks. But remember, we had to add all of the track and all of the cans and all of the labor involved in that. Richard, when we first talked to Richard was actually our second contractor. I had to let the first one go. We were having a delivery issue, and then he had a medical issue, and it provided a graceful exit for both parties. but that still cost us $10,000. So out of that $50,000, $10,000 of it was not very productive or not as effective as I would like. So if you already have track lighting, you already have the cans, and I believe, Andrew, that's a situation that you're looking at right now. I recommended to Patty yesterday, take the grill spray can for barbecue grills. It's a high heat, high temperature paint, and it's not that you need it for the LEDs, but it sticks really well. And just spray all of the cans, the flat black that you'll need for making them all the same, and then just take these are standard base B lights that will screw into regular light fixtures, and then the MR16s are available in the variety of different bases, the GU10s, the G8s, and essentially pull the old one out, the halogen out, and plug the LED in, and you're in business. So you could essentially migrate your lighting as you work on different exhibits without incurring the cost of installing all new tracks, all new cans, having to wire all of that. And Richard, like I said, when he looked at this project, the first shot, he was looking at a $250,000 project just for the labor involved in wiring and installing the tracks and the frames and all of that. So we did that all in-house, and we brought him in specifically to handle the focusing, to give us the heights that we needed to hang these frames at, and then the gels. To answer your question, as far as the gels, they're available at theater product. He ordered them from an outfit in Seattle. There's several stores or companies there that sell the gels for theater lighting, and it actually, because they're LEDs, we were looking at about 2 to 2.5 inch square spots, and that's what we taped to the front of the LED bulbs, and we were good to go. Okay, Scott, how much do the bulbs cost? When we first started looking at this project, the Par 38 spotlight or floodlight was $150. Because of the delay in getting this project underway, when we were ready to purchase the bulbs, the large floods were $49. If you go to Home Depot, they're now $40. And the price will continue to march down. The smaller Par 20s were about $22 to $24, and the Par 30s were about $30 to $34. Hang on a second, I've got to scroll up here. Let's see. We're using 300 cans, Andrew, so that we can specifically illuminate exhibits or artifacts. You have to dim the halogens to be able to put them as close as we put our LED lights. You'd have to dim them down so that you wouldn't have the glare that you would experience with using halogens in those same cans. And Holly, for dimmability, there are a number of the LEDs now that are on the market that will handle dimming down to about 20%, and at 20% they will typically cut out. So you'll find once you set up the lighting, if you have somebody that knows what they're doing with focusing the lights, you don't have to dim them. You can essentially select the intensity that you want based on the size of the bulb, and that will give you the desired effect. And again, having 300 cans lighting up all of the areas within the museum, that's how Richard approached lighting. Sometimes we needed a par 38 because he needed to light the side of the aircraft, but for the engine or the spinner, he just wanted a par 20, and he only needed to throw it 6 to 8 feet, and it would just light the spinner or the engine and give us the desired effect. Scott, how long do the bulbs last? The bulbs on the market right now, the low side are guaranteed for 50,000 hours, and the higher side bulbs are guaranteed to 100,000 hours. Let's see, Holly. Yeah, we looked at CFLs. You still have UV to deal with compact fluorescence, so we didn't want to use those. MR16 is just a small. Let me slide the photos back here. MR16s are the little bulbs. Let me get the pen. The little bulbs that go into little halogen bulbs that would go into a 12-volt fixture, and that's what this is, a 12-volt transformer here that's on the track lighting, and it obviously drops your line voltage from 12 volts, 120 volts AC to 12 volts power, and they would fit in here. The LEDs, there are LEDs that are MR16 style, and they essentially they're a form-fit replacement for these 50-watt halogen MR16 bulbs. You don't, Linda. You don't have any tracks in place, but do you have cans of any kind? Floodlights or spotlights that are on the wall? Scott, are you still not picking up the audio? Okay, let me go back to Linda's. Linda, if you have spots and floodlights and spotlight fixtures, again, that's essentially this is that's black. That won't help. Let's try this. This light right here, it's on a track, but it could just as easily be a standard floodlight fixture that's mounted to the wall. It's 120 volts, and you literally screw just screw this par 38 or the par 20 or a par 30 bulb right into it and replace it. They get extremely hot, and with the LEDs, you don't have that issue. Richard commented after we were done, he realized this was the first lighting job that he'd ever done where he didn't burn himself, because traditionally he's changing out these cans on track lights in this case, and they've been on for a while, and he routinely will burn his hands because he forgets and grabs the can or grabs the end of the bulb and burns his hands on them. We were working completely gloves off for this entire operation, and again, they were on for several hours, and you just reach up, grab the can, and unhook it from the track and move it to where you needed to, and it was warm to the touch, and that was it. How much did the MR16s were? Some of those are running about $25 or $30 right now, but again, by the end of this year, I anticipate you'll see those prices 2/3 to half of what they are right now. And how long do the bulbs last? Again, we talked about the earlier 50,000 hours for some of the bulbs. Some of the really cheap bulbs are about 25,000 hours, and the higher end bulbs are around 100,000 hours of expected life. We converted all of our exhibit areas. So the main hangar and the twin hangars, all of those are now using LED lights in the exhibit areas. We're looking at about 2,500 hours, possibly 3,000 hours a year that the lights would actually be on. So on the cheap ones, you're looking at 8-year lifespan. On the mid-grade ones, you're looking at about a 16-year lifespan. On the high-end ones, you're looking at a long time, longer than the museum's going to be in this facility. Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about the conversion with LEDs is because they're essentially, it's a digital bulb, and you don't have the heat issues which causes all sorts of other issues. You get pretty good lifespan out of these bulbs. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Jennifer. Motion detectors. That's what we have. We have done that in our restrooms, and the rest of the galleries, because we didn't rewire the entire electrical distribution system in the twin hangars, and we have those on a switch, and we essentially unplugged the high bays, and we used those outlets to power the track lighting. So the 4 switches in the twin hangars, there's 4 switches for each hangar. We left 2 high bays connected for utility maintenance if we needed them, which we haven't yet. And then we turned switches 2, 3, and 4 on, and those power the tracks. And then we were able to daisy chain the tracks together in groups to give us electricity for all of the lighting. I gathered up the numbers for Pioneer Hall and all of the fixtures we have in Pioneer Hall, and altogether those fixtures only draw 4.42 amps for that entire gallery area. For the folks that have been here, that's where the Stearman is hanging from the ceiling, the kind of the red and yellow Stearman hanging from the ceiling. All of the lighting in that hall is only 4.42 amps, so pretty low draw. What we did, Scott, is we, after the lighting was done, we took the same meter readings, and I might have sent that to you as a spreadsheet of the before and after, and I can certainly do that. I have that already in an Excel spreadsheet that has the UV readings, the visible light readings, and we had the temperatures as well, and the readings for outside. So we had all of those are on a spreadsheet, and I can send those out to you. Any other questions? Okay, Linda, what kind of lights focus on the airplanes hanging from the center? I guess the first one, what kind of fixtures are up there? If they are, if it's a traditional floodlight, like you'd install in a motion sensor system on the outside, a security light on the outside of your house, then you just unscrew that and screw an LED fixture or light into it. If it's a high bay light like we have here, where it's either a metal halide or low or high pressure sodium light, or some combination of large fixture that's not 110 volts and a type B screw-in base, then there are lights available for that. There are some LED replacements for those, but that's not something that we dealt with here yet. Have a good time, Aru.